When you're dealing with Teslas, technology can move really fast. And not that long ago, I gave you an install video and a review of two different screens for the back of the Model 3 and the Model Y. Well, there is an upgrade to the upgrade, and I want to show it to you. This is the brand new 7.2-inch rear screen display from Hansshow that is frankly an upgrade to the last two screens that I showed you. It incorporates kind of the best of both worlds, almost. I'll get to that. And there is one particular sacrifice that comes with all of these upgrades, and that's the air vent, and we'll get into that too. Now, before we jump into the install of this 7.2-inch screen, let's take inventory of what you get in the box when you order one of these things. Well, inside the box, you get instructions and the screen itself. Underneath that screen, there will be a wiring harness. Now, this is a different wiring harness than what I showed you last time. It has been refined and simplified, and we're going to get into that install and show you how all that works. There's also a couple connectors and a pry tool. Pretty much all you're going to need for this entire install. So let's get into it. Now, the process for installing this screen is just like the last two, and we're going to start by removing this back air vent cover. And to do that, you just want to reach down with your fingers and pull it off, and it will come right off. There is your USB connections on the back are connected through this cable. We're going to just need to disconnect that cable, and we're done, and we can set this aside. We don't need this anymore unless we want to return it back to factory. The next step in the process is to take off this lower cover, and I've had that off a number of times for these last install videos, but all you need is a pry tool. Get in there, wedge it. There's a couple clips. It'll pop right off. Just like that. The next step of the process is to deal with this cable. This cable is what allows the screen to communicate to the car. The main section is this. This is the patch-in cable to that blue port that we just showed you. It allows the screen to communicate with the computer in the car, and the other end allows the car cable to be plugged back in. It's basically a splice. Now, way over here on the other end is this cable. This is a patch-in cable to go to the passenger side seat controls, which allows the rear screen to control the position of that rear seat. Now, if you watched my last video for the 8-inch screen that had this option, getting this particular cable installed can be a bit of a chore, but I'm going to show you again how that is done with this particular install. So the first step of the process is actually to install this clip. This clip is to bypass the USB connections on the car. It basically allows the USB connection that plugged into this to be piggybacked back to a cable and tell the car everything's plugged in. But the new screen itself doesn't actually use this connector like the previous screens did. It actually uses the other cable. And this is just a splice, and all we got to do is plug that in. Let's do that first. Now, as we're installing this wiring harness, the actual door side actually disconnects. I'm going to disconnect that now just to make it a little easier for cable management. But let's go ahead and get this particular cable spliced in. It's just a matter of disconnecting the blue cable and splicing it in. From here, we want to route this particular cable up to the top. This is also the cable for the passenger seat control. This cable needs to be routed basically up here. This will go over to the seat, set it off to the side. Here, all we got to do is plug in the screen. It's just this one connector because we bypassed the USB. And with that, your screen will power up. You see the Hansshow logo here. Now the screen is completely loaded and talking, and now we just need to button it up by doing a little bit of cable management by tucking some of these wires down into the vent. All right, top part is done. Before we can button this all up, we have to get this particular cable run to the side door. And in order to do that, you're just going to need to do the best you can to get that cable routed over to the other side. Once that's done, we can take our cover that just pops on like that with the cable sticking off to the side. Now, the place we need to get to that cable is way down in here, and we need to get that cable that we just installed basically routed over into this particular area. And there is some space underneath, so we're going to get that cable up and push through, and then I'll show you how to get that off. I found there is supposed to be a screw up there, but it's basically just inaccessible. I found that if you actually just peel this away, it does give you a little bit extra access space. Okay, we've got the cord routed up and out, and we're going to disconnect the cable that was there before. I already had a patch in from the last screen, so we're going to patch in here, and we just need to disconnect this cable. Okay, and then we're just going to get this piggyback connector. Now it's just a matter of just kind of getting the plastic, line that up. Good to go. Now that we have the screen installed, let's check out what this thing can actually do for us. Let's start with the screen itself. The layout is a little bit different. We have the main screen here, which just basically gives us controls for the climate control and the fan control. We have the ability to adjust the temperature up and down. But what I find that it's interesting is that even though you can set the temperature to Fahrenheit, the increments up and down are in increments of degrees Celsius, so you get fractions of a Fahrenheit for a set point. The second screen we have here is control for the rear seat heaters. We can go ahead and we can turn those on and off from the back, or turn them all off at once by hitting the all close. And we can also control the passenger side seat as well by tapping on the passenger seat and then adjusting it by holding down the buttons on the screen. This is a bit of an updated UI compared to the last setup, and I actually like it quite a bit. Now, before we jump into the extra features associated with this screen, because this is an Android device at its heart, let me talk about the glaring difference that this particular 7.2-inch screen has compared to its previous predecessors. I like that it is tight and tucked up and looks very factory, but the thing that you sacrifice is the air vent. The large air vent in the back that you have on the standard system, which pretty much covers the whole real estate of the screen, is now just this little sliver of a slot down here at the bottom. It does blow air. It doesn't blow as much air, and you can't control the direction. But something had to give when you wanted to substitute a large screen and keep it tucked in factory, and that thing that got sacrificed was that air vent. So if you live in a particular location where you really need to heat or cool the back seat rapidly, you might have some difficulty with this guy right here. Now let's jump into the extra features, and if I hit this button here, we get to the screens for the system behind the scenes. This is an Android device, and we have pageable screens where we can install apps. You're going to notice that there's the Google Play Store where you can log into your account and download apps just like any other Android device. It does say it's Android 12, and it is over-the-air updatable, which is different compared to the past screens. However, you dig into the Android settings, it's actually Android 9. So not all apps will be able to run on this screen, but I did find that the majority of them do. One of the big complaints from the feedback I got on the previous screens is that there is a definite lag in sound between the screen and the car, and I want to show you how that works right now. Let's start by installing the 7-inch screen. Start by moving both seats fully forward to give you space to work. And did I mention that we have also picture-in-picture on this particular screen, which is really nice, where you can do other things and be watching a small thumbnail of your video right at the same time. As you can see, there doesn't seem to be a noticeable lag when it comes to pairing it with the car. If you're running apps like Netflix or Disney Plus, and if you do notice just a slight lag, there's a weird thing that if you just hit like 5 seconds forward or 5 seconds back, the sound comes back into sync. But for the most part, from what I have found with testing this device to the car, to the sound in the car, is that there is no noticeable lag, which makes the viewing experience much better. The next thing that I want to talk about are these headphones. The previous versions didn't work all that well with headphones, and there was also a noticeable lag. And I can tell you that you can go into the Bluetooth settings and actually pair, these are my AirPod Pros, I pair these AirPod Pros to the car screen here, and they work just fine, and there is no noticeable lag. The other thing that you want to have in the back seat is games, and the previous version didn't allow you to pair game controllers very easily to the screen, and this is a Bluetooth game controller from Jawa that I received to hook up to the car for controlling the car in the front, but it also works perfectly well for controlling games from the back seat. And as you would expect, I can be playing on Bluetooth here with my game controllers and also listening to my headset while I'm gaming. So if you've got kids in the back and you want to be doing your thing up front, this will work out for them. Let me point out one drawback, one limitation from using the Bluetooth headphones is that you can only have one output device working at any given time. You can pair multiple ones, but within the software you have to switch between the two. So if you're listening to one set of headphones, you can't have someone else in the back seat with a different set of headphones also listening in. So that is a limitation. So you have a one controller, one headphone, one screen viewer at a time. So what are my final thoughts on this 7.2-inch screen from Hansshow? Well, I think this sums it up better than I can do myself.
Yep. I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
This technology is moving super fast. This is the third iteration of this screen that I've showed you, and I'm sure that more iterations will be coming down the line. But if you're thinking to yourself, do I wait? Do I go for it? My answer to you is this is a solid screen. It's got all the things that you want. It's got all the car control that you need, temperature, climate, even moving the passenger seat here, and it has the entertainment value of giving you access to streaming services for videos, and you can also game with it with Bluetooth headphones and even a Bluetooth wireless game controller. This thing pretty much has it all. Now, if you want to pick up one of these for yourself, swing down to Handshow's website, and I put a link in the description below, and make sure you use the code IOWATESLAGUY at checkout to save you about 10 to 20% depending on what special they have going on at the time. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd appreciate you hitting that like button, and if you're new to the channel and you like videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.